Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today for my Friday reads. This is my weekly check-in on the week in reading, the week in bookish news, all of that stuff. And the exciting thing that's going to be coming is that we are going to be doing our Christmas decorating a little bit early. So the next time, well, not the next time you see me, but by the time we do the next Friday reads, the tree is going to be right here in this big empty spot. We cleared out stuff, so the tree will sit there nicely. I'm really excited that it's going to happen. This makes me happy. It makes me feel zen. It's my favorite time of year, so I'm looking forward to it. But that's how we will be spending this weekend. We usually decorate on Black Friday. That's our Black Friday tradition. But we decided this year that it would be nice to have the Christmas decorations up on Thanksgiving, especially since, unlike last year, we are actually going to have company this year. My in-laws are going to be coming and spending Thanksgiving with us. Everybody's vaccinated, everybody's boosted, we're all being careful, so it should be nice. But for now, I am sitting here with my buddy Guinness. You can't see him, but let's see if I can work this out. There he is, chilling out with me on the couch while we work on this Friday. Now, the big book news that happened this week is that the National Book Awards were announced on Wednesday, November 17th. I did a reaction video to the fiction, and I talked a little bit about the nonfiction winner and the Young People's Literature winner in the description box down below. Now, I had also mentioned in that reaction video that I didn't realize this, but in all my slumpiness of the last month, 2 months, more like a month, I had completely forgotten that I put a hold on Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda, which is the book that won the Young People's Literature Award. And I just completely forgot about it. And when it won, I opened the Libby app and somehow I had completely missed that the book was available. At the time, I had 3 days left. I said 2 days in the video, but it was 3 days. And I wanted to finish an audiobook, which I did. And we're going to get to the Friday Reads portion of this video later. But I wanted to finish the audiobook that I was working on, and I just finished it about an hour ago. And I don't think it's gonna be possible for me to cram in Last Night at the Telegraph Club before it's due. And there are already other holds on it, so I can't extend my hold. But because of the book, because of Malinda, because of the speech that she made, it really jumped out even further as a book that I want to support and an author that I want to support. So I called Montana Book Company and got a copy of it on order. And I'm thinking I'm just going to wait until the physical book arrives, and that will be how I read Last Night at the Telegraph Club. I'm not going to try to cram in the audiobook because, as I said, we are going to be decorating for Christmas tomorrow. That's an all-day thing in this house. So I just finished one audiobook. I don't know how, I think it's a 12-hour audiobook. There's no way I would get all the way through it today. And with all of the Christmas decorating tomorrow, it's just not going to happen. So I'm planning to wait for the physical book. I'm just going to release the hold and let the next person get it and say Happy Thanksgiving to them. That's the plan. And I'm really looking forward to that. I have heard more good feedback about Hell of a Book. I am on hold for it at the library. I managed to get in before a lot of holds built on it after the announcement. So what I'm hoping is that sometime in December it will become available and maybe I can read it then. At that point, I should probably have the bandwidth to get to it. I've been making good progress on finishing my Montana Book Company reading challenge for 2021, and that is my guideline for the end of year reading that I am doing. So once that becomes available, I should be in a good place to read it, and we'll see how that goes. But again, if you would like to check out my full reaction video, it will be in the description box down below. The other thing this week is that we watched the movie adaptation of Dune, Part 1, I guess. And it's well made. The cast is good. I didn't understand it at all. I feel like I just didn't understand a lot of what was happening. And I don't know if that's a flaw of the book, that it's, if that's the way it is in the book, or if it's a flaw of the movie, but I just didn't understand what was happening for most of it. And I think that impeded my enjoyment of it, because even at the end, it's just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't understand these stakes. It's a well-made movie. It doesn't feel like something that got me interested in reading the book. Doesn't feel like something that I would be interested in seeing the inevitable sequel. Well, not inevitable. They were waiting to see how it did before they announced part 2, but they did announce part 2. But I don't feel very interested in it. But if you're a Dune fan, let me know what you think. My neighbors are huge Dune fans. They read the book back in like 1968 or 1969. And they did not like the movie adaptation from the 80s, and they said that this is the first true Dune adaptation, and they are huge fans. They recommend the book, they recommend the movie. I watched the movie, and it's fine. It just didn't inspire me to want more, if that makes sense. So maybe the book makes more sense. I don't know. I did look a little bit, and I found that Frank Herbert was someone who partook of mushrooms a fair amount in his life, and I just remember thinking, that checks out. I believe that. It makes sense. So let me know. If you've watched the movie, let me know what you thought of it. I just didn't understand. I did it. Don't know that I really want to go much further. But let me know what you think of it in the description box down below. And then, as I mentioned, in the United States, Thanksgiving is next week. Thanksgiving is a weird holiday in the United States because it celebrates a weird thing. It's sort of for me, it feels a little bit in that sort of limbo space like Columbus Day, a little less so. But we love Thanksgiving because of the togetherness and the food and all of that stuff. So we will be celebrating, and that will be exciting. But because it is a short work week, and because the holiday is going to be right on Thursday, I'm hoping that my video schedule will not be too interrupted. I managed to do something pretty unprecedented yesterday. I filmed my National Book Award reaction video and got it posted, and I filmed a video for next week. So regardless of what happens, I will have at least one video that will be posted next week. And I might schedule it for Sunday since it's already filmed and I actually already edited it. But I wanted to get this Friday Reads up and posted first. So I might schedule it for Sunday. But I'm also hoping that there will be a Friday Reads next week because we don't do shopping for Black Friday. It's not what we do. So odds are we'll be home. I believe my foster son will probably be working, so I should be able to film a Friday Reads video, if nothing else. Obviously, holidays can get crazy. There's a chance I won't be able to film a Friday Reads video. If so, I'll try to communicate that, but there will be at least one video that I get posted next week. So just a heads up. Again, holidays coming, and that might disrupt video schedule, but we'll see how that goes. I won't really know until next week because I will be working through Wednesday, and then I'm off Thursday and Friday, but there's always a lot going on. I am going to skip the 3K Q&A question for this week because I finished 2 books and I want to talk to you about them. So I want to give myself a little bit of lead time for that. The first book that I finished this week is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. This was a long time coming for me because I was listening to this on audio, and even though I have a physical copy, I was liking it, but I was in the middle of that reading slump. There was a lot of stress going on. So I felt detached from the book because there are some real world things that happen in this book. Some, I don't want to say tragedies, but there are some sad things that happen in the book. And because I was feeling stressed out and sad and all of that stuff, you know, anxiety, I felt detached from the book a little bit. So I only had an hour and 42 minutes left, and I got through it this week. And part of me wishes I had been in the headspace I'm in now, because I really ended up loving that last hour and 42 minutes. And I felt so much more positive. I liked the book, but I didn't love it during everything leading up to it. And then that last hour and 42 minutes was like a revelation. And part of what I'll say is that in that first part, I felt a little bit disarmed in a slightly negative way by this book because its vision of 2 teenagers who are in love circa the late 1980s feels almost utopian. You know, their parents are very understanding. Most of their teachers are very understanding, with at least one really big exception. And most of their friends and other students are also very open and accepting, and they feel wise in ways that are well beyond either their years or the capacity of most people, being honest. Most people spend decades developing the sort of hard-won wisdom that these characters just have. And many people never get there, being completely honest. But as I started listening to the last hour and 42 minutes of this book, I'm going to try to hold this so that it doesn't look really shiny. As I headed into the final 2 hours of the audio, something struck me. And maybe it was that I was in a better headspace heading into that last hour and 42 minutes. But it occurred to me that in many ways, this book reflects the world as I prefer to think of it. Imperfect, difficult, frustrating, but filled with essentially good people trying their hardest. That's the way I like to think about the world, because people will disappoint you, people will hurt you, but people will also surprise you by being really good and decent as well. So we're all flawed, but hopefully we're trying. And this book really captures that. And it's something that I haven't really seen in a lot of fiction. And it feels nice to see that reflected in a book. And it's so nice that this book, which really prizes empathy, understanding, and respect for other people, is marketed toward a young adult audience, because those are exactly the people who could use this type of advice. And I kind of love that. I really love that. This is like compassion in book form. It's about love, even in the face of discrimination and hate. It's about friendship and understanding. It's about how easy it is to lose hope when you have to keep fighting your way through the world. And it's about how important it is to keep fighting anyway. It's about the progress we make, and it's the steps we still need to take. I love it. And by the way, no shade on Fight Night by Miriam Toews, but I noticed how I said it's about how easy it is to lose hope, or how frustrating it can be that you constantly need to fight, or how when you're not the one who's doing anything wrong, you need to educate other people. You need to constantly watch out for yourself. And how important it is to keep fighting anyway. You basically have to fight your way through life. That's supposed to be the point of Fight Night. And yet this book said so much more about that, especially in like one paragraph toward the end, than Miriam Toews got in the entirety of that book. And that's not, well, it is to knock on Fight Night a little bit, but I got more out of this one than I did out of that one. So I ended up really loving this. And at some point I am going to do a full reread, because I'm hoping that I can, the way I was feeling in that last hour and 42 minutes is how I wanted to be feeling the rest of the book. And I think just my own mental space was blocking that. But I'm glad I got to it. And I'm glad I took that little break to give myself some breathing room and a little bit of grace to come back to it feeling refreshed and with vigor and a renewed sense of purpose to do it, because this is a fantastic book. I'd recommend it. Of course, I would say start with Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which is the first book. It's so difficult to talk about this book and not spoil the first one, because the point of the first one is that Aristotle and Dante are friends and they get to know each other. And Benjamin Alire Sáenz, there's a quote, I think I still have it open somewhere. There's a quote from Benjamin Alire Sáenz, because I've been like diving into his world. And by the way, he feels like a hug in human form. I would love to get coffee with Benjamin Alire Sáenz someday, because he just seems like such a nice, genuine person. But anyway, about his first book, he said, "Some boys just know they're gay. I don't know how that happens, and I think other boys don't know, and then they start discovering that, and that's the book." So you can't talk about this book without spoiling that, because that is the book. That's Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. And in this book, they are trying to figure out how to live as a couple and what it means to be young and gay in the late 1980s, when that is not acceptable, and knowing the difficult things that they will face in their life, especially with the specter of AIDS looming. And AIDS kind of tangentially comes into the book. It's not really about that, but it does come in really beautiful ways. There's a part in the end, no spoilers, but in Paris, that's all I'll say. If you read the book, you know what I mean. It made me well up. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. So I'm going to stop raving about it And just let me know what you thought about it if you have read it as well. But I'm glad I got that. That's the experience I wanted out of this book. And it was the experience that I felt like I was getting in my own way at getting. So I'm glad it finally came around. The other book that I finished was Passing by Nella Larsen. I listened to that on audio. Somebody had mentioned that the audio read by Tessa Thompson is fantastic. Well, that was not available. I went with one read by Robin Miles. I actually really enjoyed Robin Miles's narration of this book. I thought she did a fantastic job. I'm sure the Tessa Thompson one is great, but if you don't have access to that one and you do have access to the Robin Miles version, do the Robin Miles, you'll be fine, because I thought she did a really great job. I loved this book as well. I think both of these are going to be in my top 10 for 2021. It's going to be really hard to figure out how to order my top 10 for this year. I think my top 15 is going to be extremely solid for this year. So the difficulty with Passing is that I only finished it, as I said, about an hour ago, and I haven't had time to process, because that's a big ending. It's a very short book. The audio is only about 4 hours long, and I don't know how long the book is, but that would probably mean that it's novella size. And there's a big ending. So I need to process that a little bit more. Joel actually has been reading it at the exact same time as me. He was a little bit ahead yesterday, and then I pulled a little bit ahead today. So I'm not sure if he has finished yet, and we will probably be talking about it tonight. But I really liked it. Someone a long time ago had commented on it, because I mentioned it in, I don't even know what video I mentioned it, but I brought up Passing and that I wanted to read it. And someone commented to say that they really hated it because Nella Larsen just kept talking about clothes. And I had completely forgotten that comment until I was listening to the audio, because she does mention clothes a fair amount. But to me, it's an extension of the premise. If you're unfamiliar, in Passing, there are two childhood friends, Claire and Irene. Claire has been living as a white woman and is passing, as the title would imply. Irene is not passing, but is sort of capable of passing. And there's that whole idea of safety in society and how you present yourself. And the clothes are an extension of that. They are constantly worrying about their appearance and how they look and whether or not people will accept themselves, and projecting an image of themselves to the world. And Nella Larsen is really smartly tying that into the overall message about race and passing in ways that I thought were really brilliant. And actually, I would thank that person for that comment, because I think the fact that they had left it made me pay attention to her talking about clothes a little bit more. But I loved what she was doing. They apparently did not. And I think this book is really smart. It's very, very well written. Robin Miles, again, does a very good job with the narration and doing different voices and subtle changes in the way she talks about things that were just brilliant. When Joel and I first checked in with each other about it, there's a particular scene with Claire's husband we were both just appalled by, and no spoilers if you want to read it. It's a great book, and this is something that I'm going to be digesting over the next few days, and I kind of even look forward to talking to Joel about it and digesting it a little more. The movie version is out on Netflix. We have it saved. Once Joel is done and once the Christmas decorations are up, I think we'll be watching it this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it, because I think it's a good candidate for a book-to-movie adaptation comparison. There's just so much to talk about in the book, but again, I need to digest a little bit before I can really properly talk about it. So I'm hoping I will have more. If I have more to talk about with Passing, maybe I'll do it in next week's Friday Reads again, assuming I am able to film a Friday Reads with the holiday and everything that will be going on. And maybe by then I will have seen the movie as well. So stay tuned, potentially. But for now, I was really deeply impressed by the book. I want to look to see if Nella Larsen published other things, and I almost kind of want to look into her life and do a little more research. But again, I only finished the book about an hour ago, so I haven't had time to do any of that stuff yet. The other book that I have been working on in physical form is The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage. I made really good progress on this over the weekend, but have completely stalled since then just because work has been really busy. Everything's been slammed this week because everybody's looking ahead to the short week next week, so everybody needs to do things now. You know how it works. But once Monday started, I have not been able to pick this book up at all. But over the weekend, I got 102 pages in. So I kind of flew through over the weekend, 50 pages Saturday, 50 pages Sunday. So I'm hoping that this weekend I'll be able to kind of fly through again, maybe finish it, because there are, I think, roughly 200 pages left. Yeah, 293 pages total, but that includes the afterword from Annie Proulx. So hopefully I can at least make progress on it this weekend. I was really enjoying this book. And I think the big signifier that I have been enjoying this is that I use bookmarks. And I used to use an index card as a bookmark for every single book that I read so I could take notes. Well, I don't take notes on every book that I read anymore. Who has the time to do that? Not me. And as soon as I got about 20, 25 pages in this book, I got up, went and got an index card, and started using that as a bookmark. And not only have I been using an index card to take notes, it's full on one side. And I have a couple of little recurring things that I've been tracking on the other side. So I might need to get a second index card to take notes, because this is only the first 100 pages of this book. And that definitely tells you how deep and profound this book is so far. For instance, one of the passages that I marked is on page 13 in this edition. The new sun rising above the eastern hills showed a world so vast and hostile to individual hope that the young cowhands clung to memories of home, kitchen stoves, mother's voices, the cloakroom at school, and the cries of children let out at recess. Raising their chins, they fixed their eyes now on an abandoned log shack, opened to the weather, where stray horses in summer sought a little shade, where years before a man like them had failed, where the road wandered near a barbed wire fence, a rusty sign peppered with bullet holes urged them to chew a brand of tobacco that no longer existed. Ahead, hunched over the pommel of his saddle, rode the oldest man in the bunkhouse, gray, lined of face, one who, like them, must have once dreamed of a little place, a few acres, a homestead, a few cattle, a green meadow, a woman to be a wife. God knew, maybe a child. And the next paragraph or two kind of have a little bit of a twist or an outgrowth of that, but I don't want to go in too hard. But wow, this book constantly impresses me, and it makes me really curious about other books that Thomas Savage wrote, because he wrote a lot of books. Power of the Dog is probably his most known one, but even then, he was an author who was completely unknown to me until the movie adaptation of it was announced by Jane Campion, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Kirsten Dunst. And it has me even more excited for the movie, because it feels like Jane Campion is a very smart director to pair with this project, because she has really explored gender roles and gender dynamics and gender expectations in her movies in very subtle ways. And this book, at least in the first 100 pages, seems to be getting at a sort of toxic masculinity of these characters and that you find in Westerns. And I think that's really interesting. So very excited to continue reading this and get a little bit further. Once I finish that, I'm going to be turning to Work Like Any Other by Virginia Reeves, because I need this one to tick a box on my Montana Book Company's reading challenge for 2021. I need to read a book by a local author. And Virginia, even though this is not set in Montana, it's set in Alabama, she is from Montana, and she currently, I believe, lives in Montana. So this is what I'm going to be turning to once I finish Power of the Dog. In terms of audio, like I said, I'm going to let the Last Night at the Telegraph Club hold slide. And I think what's going to end up happening is I'm going to finish The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun, because I started it and it was a good book. People have commented to say that they enjoyed it. And so I think I'm going to do that. And then I need to get back to check to see what might be available on audio for Margaret Atwood. So once I'm done with The Charm Offensive on audio, I can cross off another box on my challenge. There are only 3 left, because I finished Passing and I already put The Power of the Dog in its spot. So that leaves 3 slots and then I'm done. Feeling good about that. And I would love to hear how your reading week has gone, what you've been up to, if you've watched Dune, if you have watched any of these other adaptations that are being released. so far in movie form and just generally what's been going on. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time. If you are in the United States and you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.